Hello from Mindset Daily, wishing you a day full of health, peace, and happiness. Thank you for watching the Mindset Daily channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support us. Thank you so much. Have you ever felt like you're standing inches away from the life you want, but something invisible keeps holding you back? It's not a lack of intelligence. It's not about missed opportunities. It's something far simpler, yet far more powerful. And once you uncover it, everything changes, because the life you dream of starts with one simple habit: taking action every single day. What truly separates you from the life you desire? It isn't about how smart you are. It's not about luck or being in the right place at the right time. It's this: you don't take consistent action. But the one who does, he wins. Not because he's more gifted, but because success doesn't explode into your life. It's carved in silence through repetition. Discipline will outlast fleeting motivation. The person who shows up daily, no matter how they feel, builds unstoppable momentum while others stay trapped in hesitation. So how do you become that person? You stop negotiating with your emotions. You stop asking yourself if you feel like doing it. You move anyway, one day, then the next, until one morning you wake up and nothing can hold you back. In a moment, I'll show you how to force yourself into daily action. No more excuses, just quiet, relentless progress. You either move or you decay. And you've felt that decay, haven't you? That heavy weight that settles in when you've waited too long to begin. It creeps in slowly, like rust spreading over iron. Stillness corrodes the spirit. A man who delays action delays his own life. Every time you wait for courage, for clarity, for perfect conditions, you put your potential back to sleep. And over time, it forgets how to wake up. You weren't created to watch from the sidelines. You were built to chase, to build, to act. Why is it that the man who stumbles forward anyway always seems to find his way, while the one who waits remains stuck? Because life rewards movement. It favors the one bold enough to take a step, even if he can't yet see the road ahead. So how do you move, especially when fear and doubt feel bigger than your dream? You start small, just one task, one bold step, one act of courage. The door doesn't swing open until you're brave enough to reach for the handle. Picture this. You wake up and say, "I'll think about it." The day slips away, then the week. A year passes and you're in the same spot, just older, more regretful. But what if instead you woke up and said, "I'll do one thing," and then did it? Where could you be a year from now? What's really stopping you? Is it the size of the task, or your relationship with taking action itself? Are you waiting for someone to give you permission to live your own life? What if that permission has to come from you and no one else? You must force yourself to act, not because it's easy, but because it's essential. The only way to stay alive in spirit is to stay in motion. Just like a dull knife becomes sharp again through friction, your life becomes sharper, more defined through daily effort. Every day you show up and act, you refine who you are. The truth is, the price of waiting is always higher than the price of action. Either way, you pay. You either pay with sweat and discipline today, or with the heavy burden of regret tomorrow. That's the unchanging law of time and effort. There's no way around it. But here's the trap. Most people move through life convinced that waiting is harmless. They treat procrastination like a harmless pause, something passive and temporary. But that's an illusion, one that comes with a quiet price tag. It doesn't scream at you right away, but it builds. Every day you wait, it grows heavier. You lose time, you lose momentum, and worst of all, you lose opportunities. They slip through your fingers while you stand still, thinking you're safe. And the worst part? That cost doesn't just stay the same, it compounds. Like interest on a debt, every delay multiplies. You think you're avoiding discomfort by postponing the hard thing today. But in reality, you're financing a deeper, more layered kind of pain. Skip the workout, and your body begins to betray you. Put off the business idea, and someone else brings it to life. You thought you had time. But time had other plans. You delay the apology, and the relationship begins to dissolve. What starts as a small deferral grows into a mountain of what-ifs. That's how regret forms, not all at once, but in slow, quiet erosion. The wise know this. They don't wait for perfect clarity. They act. They accept that action comes with effort, sweat, even failure. But they also know that these costs are far cheaper than the agony of never trying at all. So why do successful people seem to leap while others linger? It's because they've learned a crucial distinction: the difference between discomfort and destruction. Discomfort is temporary. It stings for a moment, maybe a day, but the destruction that comes from unused potential, that can haunt you for years. A wasted life doesn't happen overnight. It happens one hesitation at a time. So the real question is, how do you transform your relationship with hesitation? How do you stop fear from running the show? You begin by flipping the question entirely. Don't ask yourself, what will it cost me to take action? Ask instead, what is it costing me not to act? That's the real question, the one we so often avoid. Imagine staying in the same job for 10 years. Not because it brings you purpose or joy, but simply because the idea of starting something new felt too risky. That's not just time lost. It's a decade of your life traded for safety over meaning. A decade where your purpose fades just a little more each day. Picture this. You keep telling yourself you'll become a better father once you feel ready, once life calms down, once you have more time. But time doesn't wait. Your children grow. Their personalities are being shaped right now. And while you're hesitating, the window to mold their character begins to close. And then there's the most haunting image of all. You reach the end of your life with your greatest ideas still locked inside you. The words never written, the love never spoken, the potential never touched. Not because you weren't capable, but because you waited. You paused, hoping for the perfect moment, and that moment never came. So what is the real price of delay? It's not just yours to carry. Your hesitation steals from others. It steals from your family, from the future partner who needed your strength, from the people who could have been inspired, moved, or even changed by your courage. Every time you hold back, someone else pays the price. That's why you must push yourself forward. Not because it's easy, not because it's comfortable, but because waiting will never reward you. Comfort whispers that you have plenty of time. But comfort is a seductive liar. Time is not a loyal servant. It's a quiet thief. And the longer you wait, the more it takes from you. You can't outrun time. You can't outsmart it. But you can use it. You won't beat time. But you can bend it to your will if you start moving now. Lean into the sweat. Welcome the discomfort. Make the leap. Pick up the phone. Open that blank page. Take the step, even if it's messy. Especially if it's messy. Because messy action will always be better than flawless hesitation. One way or another, you pay. So pay with discipline. Pay with hustle. Pay with sweat today, so you don't have to carry the weight of regret tomorrow. Discipline is the bridge, the narrow crossing between what you want and what you have. You want a better life? Of course you do. So does everyone. But the path from where you are to where you dream to be is not paved with wishes. It's paved with action. And the name of that narrow bridge is discipline. Without discipline, desire is just a daydream. Soft, fleeting, gone with the wind. But with discipline, mountains move. You probably set goals before. Maybe you even shouted them from the rooftops or boldly scribbled them across a vision board, believing that passion alone would carry you. And at first it does. Passion sprints out the gate. It's loud. It's electric. But passion, no matter how bright, has a short shelf life. It burns hot, then fades. It shines strong, then flickers out when no one's watching. And when that flame dims, as it always does, what's left to move you forward is something quieter, stronger, and far more reliable. Discipline. It's not wrapped in applause. It doesn't sparkle on Instagram or come dressed in bursts of inspiration. Discipline isn't the fire, it's the flint. The hard edge that still shows up when the fire's long gone. It's the part of you that wakes up anyway when you're exhausted, that stands up even when no one sees, that keeps going long after the mood to start has disappeared. So how do you build this quiet force? You start with a promise, one you make to yourself, and one you keep. That's it. Even when your body is tired, even when the weather rages, even when no one claps and no one notices. Especially then, because discipline isn't about proving anything to others. It's about proving to yourself that your word means something. You don't have to conquer the whole world in one day. Start small. Set a standard you can meet daily. 10 push-ups, 10 pages, 10 minutes of focused effort. Whatever it is, make it non-negotiable. No excuses, no exceptions. Do it consistently. Do it with intention. And what begins as a simple habit slowly transforms into something greater, a personal code. Discipline isn't about smashing every goal overnight. It's about choosing your principles over your passing moods. Every single time. It's about standing up and saying, I said I would, so I will. Picture a man. He rises before the sun. He sharpens his tools. He tends his land. No spotlight, no audience. Just repetition. Just effort. Day after day. He's not chasing luck. He's building certainty. He's not hoping for a harvest. He's planting one every morning. This is what it looks like to live with discipline. You stop making excuses and start making progress. You stop arguing with your weakness and start forging real strength. Ask yourself this: do I live by my mood or by my principles? Would I trust someone who keeps the same level of consistency I do? And if not, why should anyone else? Why should the world open doors for a man who doesn't even knock twice? Discipline is a mirror. It shows you who you really are when no one is watching. Discipline reflects your respect for your own potential. It's not punishment, it's preparation. It's your declaration to life. I am serious about becoming who I'm meant to be. There's no secret formula. No magical shortcut. No perfect moment that suddenly makes everything easier. There's only one difference that matters: the man who shows up and the man who doesn't. One will reap the harvest, the other will hunger for it. So when quitting feels like the easiest path, don't. When the bed is warm and the road ahead is cold and unwelcoming, rise. When your mind whispers later, answer boldly, now. Because the bridge between who you are and who you could become is crossed one disciplined step at a time. And once you've crossed it, once you've learned to keep your promises to yourself, something changes. The world starts to trust you. Not because of what you say, but because of what you prove consistently. You want a better life? Then build it. One brick at a time. One day at a time. Let discipline be the mortar that holds each layer together. And let consistency be the hammer that drives every decision forward. Build a life so solid that no storm can shake it. Discipline is rarely easy, but it's always worth it. Because while others drift, you will remain. While others quit, you'll keep building. While others dream, you will become. Success is not born in the spotlight. It's earned in solitude, long before it's ever celebrated in public. You may want recognition, a title, applause. That's human. But before the world ever rewards you, you must first reward yourself with discipline, with grit, and with the humility to prepare when no one's watching. All great victories begin in obscurity. No crowd, no noise, just the echo of your own footsteps in an empty room and your decision to keep going. We admire the leader on the podium, the champion holding the trophy, the speaker commanding the stage. But we forget that before he led others, he had to lead himself. He built his strength in silence when no one believed in him. He kept showing up unnoticed. That's the furnace where greatness is forged. The unseen hours, the early mornings, the quiet nights. You don't stumble into success. You don't earn a crown by accident. You build a kingdom alone in the shadows. And in those moments, when giving up would be easy, but pressing on is the only honest choice, that's when it counts. That's where transformation happens. Why does this matter? Because most people only act when applause is guaranteed. They step forward when recognition is waiting. But the moment praise disappears, so does their effort. They retreat when no one's watching. But here's the truth. The world only notices after you've already done the work. We've done the work when no one was watching. The highest achievers aren't powered by applause. They're fueled by a deeper promise. A vow made in silence to themselves. And because of that promise, they keep showing up. Quietly, uncelebrated, focused. While others sit idle, waiting for a surge of motivation, they create their own. While others hope for a golden opportunity, they train in the shadows, preparing for the moment that may or may not ever come. Ask yourself honestly, what do you do when there's no audience? When there's no paycheck, no title, no recognition? That's the crucible. That's the private arena where your future self is being shaped. Imagine two men. One practices daily in the dark. He sweats in silence. He refines his craft even when there's no reward in sight. The other? He waits for the spotlight, hoping that the stage will suddenly awaken his drive. But it's the man in the shadows who steps into the light ready. Because preparation is never wasted. It's stored. It builds. It waits. Until one day, it explodes into results that seem sudden to everyone, except the one who prepared. You must live in a way that your future self will one day look back and say, you earned this. Not through shortcuts, not through sudden bursts of brilliance, but through quiet, steady consistency day after day. So ask yourself, what habits are you forming behind closed doors? What identity are you creating when no one is there to applaud or correct you? Because that's the version of you the world will eventually meet. Not the one you pretend to be in public, but the one you've trained in private. Every single action is a brick in a foundation that only time will reveal. So be careful what you're building. Will it stand? Will it be a structure built from effort or excuses? Will it echo with discipline or ring hollow with delay? You must train in silence. Not because silence is easy, but because it's honest. It demands focus. It cultivates resolve. The applause will come, but only to those who've proven they didn't need it. So if no one sees you now, good. If no one is clapping, excellent. You are exactly where greatness is born. In that quiet place where character is forged, where self-respect is earned, and where you begin to become undeniable. And when that moment finally comes, when the doors open and the world sees what you've built, they'll call it talent. They'll call it luck. But you'll know better. You'll know it was discipline. It was hours of quiet preparation. It was the daily decision to show up when no one asked you to. Earn the right to be seen by refusing to need to be. The crown is coming, but only if you build the kingdom in silence first. Force yourself to do the hard thing before anything else. Your day begins with a choice, a simple one, but powerful enough to define your future. Do you tackle the mountain, or do you sweep the pebbles? Most people choose the pebbles, but you don't have to. They tidy up their desk. They clear out emails, reply to messages, shuffle papers, and they call it productivity. But when the real work, the mountain, finally comes into focus, it's already evening. The day is gone. Energy has faded. Focus has slipped through their fingers. And so, they say, I'll get to it tomorrow. But the mountain doesn't move. That hard thing, the uncomfortable phone call, the bold decision, the dream project you keep postponing, that's where the gold is buried. That's the treasure zone. The task that makes your stomach twist is often the very one that will make your future stronger. But instead of facing it, we delay. We rationalize. We wait for the perfect time. We negotiate with fear. We trade our greatness away, one small pebble at a time. But the person who chooses to face the mountain first, the one who tackles the hard thing right away, is the person who gains a powerful edge, an advantage that others may never recover from. Because while everyone else is still busy clearing the dust, he's already digging into something deeper. He's growing while others are stalling. He's not just moving, he's building momentum. And that matters. Why is this so powerful? Because first, your willpower is strongest in the morning. It hasn't been chipped away by the world yet. It's untouched, steady, and full of potential. Second, doing the hardest thing first frees your mind. It clears your runway, removes the mental clutter, and opens space for clarity. You're not dragging dread behind you all day. You're walking light. You're walking free. And third, it delivers a sacred message to your inner self. I am in charge today. Not fear, not laziness, not convenience, just you deciding. So how do you make this a way of life? Start simple. Wake up, take a breath. Then ask yourself, what's the one task I've been avoiding? The one that matters most. The one that quietly scares you more than any errand or distraction. That's your target. Do it first. Do it before breakfast. Before fear gets a chance to speak. Before excuses rise. Do it while the world is still quiet. When your strength is untouched and your mind is clear. Not to impress anyone. Not to chase perfection. But to make a statement. You run the day. Not the other way around. Picture this. What if every day began with the hardest part already behind you? What if before the sun had even risen high in the sky, you had already climbed your personal mountain? Can you imagine how light the rest of the day would feel? How powerful you'd move through your schedule? How far you could actually go? When you tackle the mountain first, everything changes: your mindset, your posture, your momentum. You walk taller. You carry yourself with more confidence, more clarity, more control. You feel capable because you've already done what most people avoid. And that changes how you face everything else. Ask yourself honestly, what have I been pushing to the bottom of my to-do list? What have I been avoiding? Not because it doesn't matter, but because it does. What if just once you started at the top with the hard thing, the real thing, the right thing? What might shift in your life? Success doesn't belong to the person who checks off the most boxes. It belongs to the one who does what actually matters. And what matters is almost always the thing you resist. Don't let busyness trick you. Don't mistake movement for progress. And don't let a pile of pebbles keep you from climbing your summit. Begin every day by standing face to face with your mountain. Look at it, feel the weight of it, and say, I choose to climb. Not later. Not after things feel easier. Not when you're more motivated. Now, because that is how leaders rise. That is how winners are made. That is how momentum is earned. One bold decision at a time. Made early. Made with intention. Made before fear has a chance to cast its vote. But when you put it off, when you rearrange your schedule and convince yourself you're just not ready, the mountain stays. It waits, unmoved, untouched. The truth is, it doesn't care about your excuses. It will be there tomorrow. The question is, will you face it today? The hard thing, the difficult conversation, the bold decision, the dream you keep pushing into someday. That's where the gold is buried. That's your treasure zone. The things that make your stomach tighten are often the exact things that will shape your strongest future. But instead of facing them, we stall. We talk ourselves down. We negotiate with fear. We push greatness off the cliff, one tiny pebble at a time, until we forget there was even a mountain to climb. But the man who does the hard thing first, he's building something others can't replicate. He's creating momentum others can't catch up to. While they're still organizing, rearranging, clearing the dust, he's already digging. Digging for gold. Digging into growth. Because while others delay, he's developing. And that, in the long run, makes all the difference. He's earning momentum, not just motion. And that momentum becomes unstoppable. Why is this so powerful? First, because your willpower is at its peak in the morning. It hasn't been spent yet. It's untouched, fully charged, and ready to serve you. It's the purest strength you'll have all day, and when you use it to tackle the hardest task, you're using your mind at its sharpest. Second, when you handle the hard thing first, you clear your mental runway. You remove the dread that otherwise hangs over everything else. You don't carry the weight of avoidance. You walk lighter. You move freer. You're not dragging resistance behind you. You're leading your day. And third, you send a sacred signal to yourself. A message that says, I'm in charge today. Not fear, not my mood, not convenience. Me. That shift, internal but powerful, sets the tone for how you show up everywhere else. So, how do you turn this into more than just a moment? How do you make it a lifestyle? Start here. Wake up. Decide with intention. Then identify the single task that intimidates you most. The one you've kept postponing. The one that whispers from the bottom of your list, waiting to be faced. Because that's usually the one that matters most. And yes, it will likely scare you more than any errand or easy task. That's how you know it's worth doing. So do it first. Do it before breakfast. Before fear wakes up. Do it while the world is still quiet. Before distraction sets in. While your energy is still unspent and your focus is razor sharp. Do it not to impress anyone. Not for applause. Not to chase perfection. But to make a simple, powerful declaration. I run the day. The day does not run me. Picture it. What if every morning began with your most difficult challenge already behind you? What if before the sun even reached its peak, you had already climbed your personal mountain? Imagine how light the rest of your day would feel. How focused you'd be. How powerful you would walk into every room. How far could you go? Because when you face the mountain first, your whole posture changes. You carry yourself with more confidence, more clarity, more command. You become someone different, not because the world changed, but because you did. Ask yourself, what task have I been pushing to the bottom of the list? What if just once I start at the top, with the hard thing, the real thing, the right thing? What might shift? What might finally begin to move? Success doesn't belong to the one who does the most. It belongs to the one who does what matters. And what matters most is almost always the thing you resist. Don't be fooled by busyness. Don't let a pile of small pebbles keep you from climbing your true summit. Begin every single day by facing your mountain. Stand before it and say, I choose to climb. Not later. Not when it's convenient. Not after comfort. Now. That is how leaders rise. That's how winners are built. That's how momentum is earned. One hard decision at a time. Made early, made boldly, made before fear has a chance to speak. Ask yourself, what have I been teaching my mind through my choices? Through my delays? Through my excuses? And more importantly, what do I want to teach it now? Because you're not just living your life, you're training for it. Every decision you make writes a line of code into your system. So ask yourself, are you programming a warrior or a worrier? The battle you're preparing for may not arrive today, but when it does, you won't meet it by chance. You'll meet it ready, not because of luck, but because of training, because you made the choice to prepare. Action is the antidote to fear. You weren't born afraid. You didn't enter this world doubting your voice, your strength, your worth. That came later, slowly. After each failure, every harsh word, every look of judgment that made you shrink. Fear crept in over time. It grew stronger every time you stood still while something deep inside begged you to move. And with each hesitation, you handed fear a little more control. You may not have noticed it then, but over time, you made a subtle mistake. You confused hesitation with wisdom. You called it caution. You dressed it up as maturity, even intelligence. But deep down, you knew the truth. Fear only grows when you feed it. And you feed it by doing nothing. Every time you say not yet, every time you delay, every time you walk away from what matters, you give fear more authority over your life. So what's the cure? It's movement. It's action. Not recklessness. Not chaos. But deliberate, courageous steps in the direction of what scares you. Because fear cannot ride a moving train. This isn't just motivational fluff, it's neuroscience. When you act, You shift your brain from imagining worst-case scenarios to experiencing actual results. You stop projecting failure and start collecting evidence. Your brain begins to see proof. I can handle this. And once you've felt that proof, even for a moment, fear begins to melt. It transforms from paralysis into fuel. It becomes fire. But don't try to conquer the whole mountain in a day. Don't expect to slay every dragon in one breath. Start small. Choose one thing you've been avoiding. One task. One truth. Don't worry about finishing it. Just begin. 5 minutes. That's all it takes to shift everything. Just tell your body, we're doing this now. Yes, your mind will resist. It'll fight back. It'll scream, flood you with doubts, give you every reason to stop. But here's the secret. It always quiets down once it knows you're serious. When you show up with action instead of excuses, fear loses its grip. Picture a boy standing at the edge of a lake. The water is cold. His heart pounds. He walks the edges, unsure. He dips his toes in. He circles the lake again and again, feeling the chill, measuring the risk. But he is not free, not truly, until he jumps. That moment, that leap, it isn't just physical. It's symbolic. That's where he reclaims his courage. That's where he returns to his strength. And you are no different. You've been circling your own lake, thinking, waiting, rationalizing, telling yourself you'll jump when it feels right. But deep down, you already know the freedom you crave lives on the other side of the leap. And the longer you pace around it, the larger it begins to feel. The longer you avoid it, the more monstrous it becomes. But the moment you step toward it, just one step, the illusion begins to fall apart. Ask yourself, what fear have I allowed to grow too large? What leap have I been postponing? Not for days, but for weeks, months, maybe even years. What truth have I been avoiding because it scares me? Write down, then act. Not tomorrow, not when I feel ready. Because readiness is a myth. It doesn't arrive by waiting, it arrives by doing. You don't become ready first and then move. You move, and that's what makes you ready. Every fear obeys the same law. It shrinks when you face it. It dies in movement. It thrives in delay. So if you want to beat it, you have to act. Not when the plan is perfect. Not when you've eliminated all risk. Just move. Just begin. Let courage be messy. Let it be awkward. Let it be small. But let it be real. Because once you take that first action, everything begins to change. The fear doesn't disappear entirely, but it loses power. It no longer controls you. It steps aside, and what rises in its place is strength. You weren't born afraid, and you don't have to live that way. So reclaim your courage. Reclaim your movement. Take the leap, because on the other side of fear, freedom has been waiting for you all along. And here's the truth most people never realize until it's too late. Motivation doesn't come first. Action does. Motivation follows movement, not the other way around. But most people wait. They sit still, staring at their goals, hoping that someday, somehow, a gust of wind will come. A surge of inspiration. A lightning bolt of motivation that will strike and finally push them forward. They wait and they wait, believing that when they feel ready, then they'll act. But the truth is simple, and it's brutal. That wind you're waiting for, it only comes after you start rowing, not before. That's where most people get it wrong. They think action follows feeling, that you must feel inspired to begin. But the truth is the reverse. Feeling follows action. It's discipline first, motivation second. When you delay action, waiting for the perfect mindset, it's like waiting for water in a well you've never dug. And when you sit there scrolling, watching motivational videos, flipping through quote after quote, what are you really teaching your body? You're teaching it that it only moves when it feels like it. That emotion must lead effort. But that's not how greatness works. And that's a dangerous habit to fall into, waiting for the right feeling. Because feelings are unstable. They shift with the weather, with how well you slept, with a single comment someone made in passing. They rise and fall without warning. But commitment? That's where the real power lies. That's consistency. That's identity. So how do you begin without motivation? You commit to a start time, not a feeling. You draw a clear line in your day and say, this is when I begin, no matter what. Even if you're tired, even if you feel discouraged, even if that voice in your head whispers every reason to delay, you begin anyway. And then something unexpected happens. Just minutes into action, your mind begins to shift. The fog begins to lift. Because the act of doing reactivates the part of you that wants to continue. The body moves first, and the mind follows. Picture a man sitting in a freezing cabin, wrapped in a blanket, teeth chattering, staring at an empty fireplace. He mutters to himself, once it's warm, I'll add the wood. But fireplaces don't work that way. Life doesn't work that way. You build the fire first, then comes the warmth. Only then do your hands stop shaking. Only then does your energy return. The same is true in every part of life. Action builds the fire. Heat is the result. So ask yourself, where in your life are you sitting cold, waiting for the warmth to come to you? Where are you delaying the first spark, hoping something or someone will ignite it for you? What if the very fire you've been searching for is trapped behind the action you keep avoiding? Start small. Start messy. Start imperfectly, but start. Even just 5 minutes of focused effort can flip the entire switch. Once you begin, you're no longer held hostage by your mood. You've taken back the wheel. You've put yourself in motion. The wind will fill your sails, but only after you push off the dock. You have to leave the shore of comfort. You have to stop waiting for the current to carry you. Here's the great secret. The current doesn't come first. It forms around your movement. The universe responds to motion, but it ignores hesitation. Ask yourself, what part of my life have I paused, waiting to feel ready? What if, instead of waiting for the mood to strike, you simply committed to a start time and treated it like a sacred promise? What might shift if you honored that commitment, no matter how you felt? There is no magic, no special feeling that guarantees motion. There is only action, and everything follows from there. There is no magic moment, no perfect spark. There is only movement. Motivation isn't a prerequisite, it's a reward. It shows up when you've already proven you're willing to move without it. So build the fire. Launch the boat. Push away from the safety of the shore. The warmth, the wind, the willpower, they were always inside you. But they've been waiting on one thing, for you to act first. So don't wait to feel ready. Make movement your master. Let action lead, and the feelings will follow. The future isn't built in grand, dramatic hours. It's built in blocks, 15 minutes at a time. You think you need an entire free day, a clean schedule, the perfect mindset, a quiet space, a sign from the universe. But none of that is true. What you really need is just 15 minutes of focused effort, then another 15, then another. That's how the great cathedrals of the world were built. Not in one glorious burst of energy, but by laying one stone at a time, day after day, without fail, without waiting for permission. This is the truth most people avoid. Waiting for the right moment is just resistance in disguise. It's procrastination wearing a mask. We tell ourselves we'll begin when life slows down, when we feel inspired, when the stars align, when the world gives us the green light. But the world doesn't work that way. Life will always be noisy, chaotic, imperfect. There will always be something pulling at your time and attention. So what do you really need? Not more hours, not a new productivity app, not a longer morning routine. What you need is a decision, a choice to begin, even when it's messy, even when you're not at your best. Because once you truly decide, something powerful happens. Time expands, distractions blur, you fall into rhythm. What once seemed overwhelming suddenly becomes manageable. Just because you showed up, just because you gave your full focus for a sliver of time. Think about that. You probably spent weeks, months, maybe years telling yourself you were too busy, too tired, too far behind. But your future doesn't need a massive comeback. It doesn't need marathon days. It needs deposits. Small ones, consistent ones, focused ones. A quarter hour of undistracted effort daily will outperform scattered bursts of intensity every time. Because the man who moves steadily, a little each day, will always walk farther than the man who sprints and collapses. Picture him now, a man with just 15 minutes to spare. No perfect conditions, no long stretches of free time, just a decision. He closes the door, he opens his notebook, and he begins. His progress is invisible at first. No cutouts, no results to post, no mountain visibly moving. But he shows up anyway, quietly, relentlessly, day after day, until one day, something shifts. Something cracks open. A breakthrough appears. Like spring after a long, gray winter, sudden, vibrant, alive. And people around him ask, where did this come from? But he knows the truth. It came from every small, silent moment when he chose not to wait. You have that power too. You don't need permission. You don't need perfect timing or ideal energy. You don't need to overhaul your entire life overnight. You just need to own 15 minutes. Then do it again tomorrow. Not flawlessly, but faithfully. So ask yourself this. What if you claim just 15 minutes each day for what truly matters? What if you gave your dream the same consistency you give your distractions? What might start to grow if you stopped waiting for time and started making it? Because here's the truth. Your dream life won't arrive all at once. It won't burst through the door in one dramatic moment. It will be built brick by brick, page by page, rep by rep, set by set. It will come together the way anything of real value does, with patience, with grit, and with those small windows of time that you claim like treasure. Your future isn't waiting for the perfect hour. It's waiting for you to use the imperfect minutes already in your hands. Start there. Start now. Then show up again tomorrow, and again the next day, until what once was invisible becomes undeniable. Until momentum is no longer a wish, but a force you've created with your own hands. 15 minutes, that's all it takes to begin a life's work, to lay a single stone, to prove to yourself that this matters, and to keep building. You're the architect of your routine, so build it to win. You may not control every event, every disruption, or every storm that blows your way. Life will continue to throw what it will, but you absolutely control how you begin your day and how you end it. And that small control, that's the lever that moves everything else. Because the man who builds his routine is the man who builds his future. Without a routine, you drift. You wake up already behind, stepping into chaos instead of clarity. You react to the world instead of directing it. You let external noise set the rhythm of your day, and before you know it, you're dancing to a song you never chose. Is it any wonder you feel scattered? Is it any surprise your progress feels stalled? Because a man without a routine becomes a servant to chance. He scrambles for structure. He searches for momentum. He hopes for motivation that never stays. His days blur together. He starts over again and again, never building anything that lasts. But when you build a rhythm, one that's personal, deliberate, disciplined, you reclaim control. You stop stumbling through your day and start moving with purpose. You shift from surviving to leading, from reacting to creating. Because the routine you build isn't just a list of habits. It's a reflection of who you're becoming. It's your identity in motion. Why is this so powerful? Because your routine doesn't just organize your time, it shapes your character. The man who rises with clarity and ends his day with reflection doesn't need constant external validation. He's not searching for a compass, he's already holding it. And that compass isn't bought. It's forged every day in the quiet, consistent rituals he chooses to repeat, no matter what. So build yours wisely. Start your day with intention. Wake up at the same time. Reach for your mission before the world reaches for you. Breathe, read, reflect, journal, pray, walk. Whatever brings you into presence, into alignment with your higher self, do that. These may seem like small habits, but they are bricks, solid, grounding bricks in the foundation of the man you are becoming. And just as importantly, in your day with just as much purpose. Review your actions, reflect on your progress, learn from the missteps, celebrate your wins. Don't go to sleep to escape the day. Go to sleep to prepare for the next one. Because the man who ends his day in reflection wakes up with clarity and wisdom. Guard these rituals like sacred fire. Let no one steal them from you. Let no excuse dilute them. Because they're your anchors, your roots. They steady you when life shakes. They remind you that you're not some fragile leaf tossed by the wind. You're the wind. Imagine your life as a factory. If the machines run smoothly each morning, if the lights turn on, the gears rotate, and the systems engage, what happens over time? Productivity compounds. Results become predictable. Progress becomes unstoppable. The factory only runs smoothly when the rhythm is clear. The workers know the process. They know the timing. And when everything is in sync, production soars. But what happens when each day begins in confusion? When no one knows the plan? When the switches change daily, the tools are scattered, and the instructions are unclear. Output collapses. Chaos takes over. Progress disappears. So ask yourself, what kind of factory are you running? Who designed the system that dictates your day? Your former self? Your current circumstances? Or a conscious, deliberate version of you who knows what matters? Are you building a system that serves your purpose? Or are you drifting inside a structure designed by distraction? Because here's the truth. You are the architect. You hold the blueprint. You already have the tools. You have the power to create routines that strengthen you, not weaken you. But it won't happen by accident. It requires clarity. It requires consistency. It requires repetition, intention, and, above all, belief. The belief that your future is worth this effort. So start today, not tomorrow, not after things calm down, not when you finally feel ready. Begin now. Choose one habit to anchor your morning. Just one. Choose one ritual to close your day. Repeat them like your life depends on it, because it does. The man who owns his morning controls his momentum. The man who ends his day in reflection sets his direction. Build your routine like a man who fully intends to win. Because winners aren't born, they're built. One morning at a time, one evening at a time, one sacred routine at a time. Your results will always reflect your standards. You don't get what you want. You get what you tolerate. And what you tolerate is defined by the invisible line you draw between what's acceptable and what is not. Raise that line, and your life will rise with it. Keep it low, and even greatness will pass you by without knocking. Most people point fingers at circumstances, timing, or luck. But the truth is simpler and harsher. The life you live right now is a mirror of the standards you've allowed. It's not that other men are favored by fate. It's that they demand more from themselves, consistently, quietly, without compromise and without excuse. When the path gets hard, they lean in. When cutting corners looks easy, they choose discipline instead. And the result? A life that seems extraordinary to everyone else. But to them, it's just the outcome of unshakable standards. Your standards aren't declared in loud speeches or motivational posts. They're revealed in your patterns, in the way you begin your mornings, in the words you choose when speaking to strangers, in the care you give your craft when no one's watching, when there's no applause. Every small action whispers to the world, "This is what I allow," and the world listens. Because everything you tolerate becomes instruction. Every lowered bar teaches life how to treat you. So look closely at the time you choose to wake up, at the energy you bring to your relationships, at the precision you bring or don't bring to your work. These aren't random habits. They are signatures of your standard. if you hit snooze day after day, if you speak in complaints more than gratitude, if you give half effort and call it enough, it's not about motivation. It's about what you've decided is acceptable. Picture a builder, tasked with constructing a home meant to last for generations. He selects only the strongest stone. He lays each brick with precision. He checks every measurement twice. Why? Because he knows what he builds now must endure storms, time, and pressure. The result? A structure that lasts. Now picture another builder. He rushes. He cuts corners to save time. He uses weak cement. He skips steps and tells himself, it's good enough. And it is, until the first storm hits. That's when everything falls apart. So ask yourself, what kind of life are you building? Where have you compromised? Where have you told yourself, this will do, even though some deeper part of you knew it wouldn't? Raising your standards doesn't require a full-blown revolution. It starts with something much simpler, just one level higher. One more rep at the gym. One extra hour of focused work. One deeper conversation you've been avoiding. One less excuse. It's not about perfection. It's about intention. It's about scanning each area of your life and deciding, I will no longer accept less than what I know I'm capable of. That's where the shift begins, quietly, inwardly, firmly. And once you make that shift, life begins to respond. Opportunities begin to notice. People begin to notice. You begin to notice. Because your internal bar has risen. And when that bar rises, things that once felt out of reach now feel inevitable. Your results will always bow to your expectations. So raise them. Expect more and act like it. Don't just hope for a better life. Don't sit around waiting for the conditions to improve. Build better foundations. Demand more. More from your time, your words, your posture, your commitment, your heart. Because the world isn't testing you. Life is responding to you. Every disappointing outcome, every low result, it's not random. It's a reflection of a low standard you've allowed somewhere. And every real breakthrough, it begins the moment you stand up and say no more. That's when a shift begins. So draw the line, then raise it. And as you raise your standard, rise with it. Because your life isn't ultimately shaped by what you wish for. It's shaped by what you demand from yourself. It only takes one decision to change the course of your entire life. One bold moment of clarity. Even if you feel stuck, lost, or uncertain, you're never as far from breakthrough as it seems. You're just one firm, unapologetic decision away from moving in a completely new direction. One act of commitment, backed by even the smallest step, can change the entire momentum. So what's the real obstacle? It's not your ability, it's your hesitation. Most people never truly decide. They hover, they hesitate, they bounce back and forth in indecision, trapped in overthinking. They wait for the perfect time, for a sign, for the fear to fade. But progress doesn't wait. It doesn't care about perfect conditions. It begins the instant you decide, not when the plan is flawless, but when your resolve becomes non-negotiable. Every man who has ever built something meaningful, something lasting, began with a single defining moment. I will do this, no matter what. And why does that matter so much? Because decision cuts through the fog. It silences the doubt. It slices away all the noise. It creates a line in the sand that says, this is who I am now. Before that moment, everything feels tangled, messy, overwhelming, uncertain. But after the decision, clarity arrives. Not because the road suddenly becomes easy, but because your direction becomes firm. You finally choose forward movement. And with that, decision brings power. Not just the power to move, but the power to transform. Every time you make a decision with full conviction, you're reshaping your identity. You're saying to yourself, this is who I've chosen to be now. And identity? That's the foundation of every lasting change. So how do you find the one decision that truly shifts everything? You get honest. You stop hiding behind the noise, behind the excuses. You sit with yourself and ask one question that can pierce through every layer of resistance. What have I been avoiding that I already know needs to change? That's where your power lives. Not in more books, not in collecting more advice, not in weighing pros and cons until the moment passes. Your power is in facing the truth that's already whispering inside you. You don't need more information, you need more courage. You already know the move. The question is, will you finally make it? Picture a ship caught in a thick fog. It drifts aimlessly, circling with no direction. The crew grows anxious as the waves toss it from side to side. There's tension in the air, uncertainty, and fear. But then something shifts. The moment the captain steps forward and chooses a direction, everything begins to change. The fog doesn't instantly lift. The sea doesn't suddenly calm. But now the ship moves. And because it moves, it can be guided. It can be steered. That one decision unlocks the possibility for course correction, for reaching land, for finding purpose. Now turn inward and ask yourself, where in your own life are you still circling? Where are you waiting for a sign when deep down you already know the truth you've been avoiding? What decision have you kept postponing because of discomfort, fear of failure, or judgment? And even more important, what could shift if you chose to act today? The hard truth is most people never truly choose. They float, they wait, they surrender their power to others, to circumstance, to avoidance. And then they wonder why their life feels so hollow, so directionless. But you're not most people. You're the captain of your ship, and the sea doesn't reward hesitation. It honors bold direction. Stop waiting to be completely certain. That moment may never come. Instead, start by deciding to move. The current will support you, but only after you pick up the oars and begin to row. Yes, you might steer in the wrong direction at first. Yes, you may need to adjust, but it's through action that clarity emerges. Motion refines vision. You cannot find your path standing still. So take a breath. Plant your flag. Draw your line. Declare it boldly. This is my choice. Say it out loud, and then follow it with decisive action. Because the space between drifting and destiny, it's often only one decision wide. And that decision belongs to you. Make it now. Begin the journey that will alter the entire trajectory of your life. Progress will ask something else of you. It will ask you to release the version of yourself that brought you this far. That version endured much. He fought. He survived. He made sacrifices. And he deserves your gratitude. But he cannot lead you where you want to go next. Growth always requires letting go. Too many men stay stuck because they cling to outdated identities. Identities shaped by fear, by failure, by a past that no longer serves them. They hold on to who they were rather than who they could become. So you say you want change. You say you want success, clarity, freedom. But look closely. Are you still acting like the man who secretly fears what success might bring? Do you still carry yourself like someone who doubts his own worth? Do you speak as though rejection is inevitable? Do you move through life like someone who's not ready? Because the truth is simple. Every new level of life demands a new version of you. You don't need to become a completely different man. You need to become a more refined version of who you already are. The core of you stays the same, but the outer layers, the outdated patterns, the old habits, the limiting stories, those must be shed. Growth doesn't always come from adding more. Sometimes, the greatest transformation happens when you release what no longer belongs. This is the defining moment in every real change. It's the crossroads where your future either expands or stalls. And it's not about gaining more, but about letting go. Letting go of the things that once served you, but now sabotage you. Can you feel it? That tension between who you were and who you're meant to become? True growth isn't just a climb upward. It's a process of stripping away. It's fire. A fire that doesn't destroy, but purifies. It burns off the unnecessary, the outdated, the harmful. But the real question is, will you allow that fire to burn? Will you let it refine you? So how do you begin that letting go? You pause. You reflect. You look at your life with unfiltered honesty. You ask the hard question, what belief, behavior, or habit do I already know no longer fits the man I'm becoming? And let's be real, you already know the answer. We all do. Maybe it's that story you keep telling yourself, the one that says you're not good enough. Maybe it's the fear you've defended for years, convincing yourself it's wisdom. Maybe it's that daily routine that slowly drains your spirit, or the relationship that keeps shrinking your confidence instead of expanding your vision. You already know, and here comes the hardest part. You let it go. Not someday, not when it's convenient, not after one more try. You let go today, because every moment you delay, every second you hesitate, you tighten the chain around your potential. You train your mind to tolerate the weight, and eventually, that weight convinces you that you'll never rise. Imagine a hot air balloon. It's filled with fuel. The flame is burning. The sky is wide open, but it can't ascend unless the sandbags are released. Now think, what are your sandbags? What are the weights that hold you back? Some of them are thoughts. Some are patterns. Some are comfort zones disguised as necessities. And some are people. You tell yourself these routines are essential, that this environment is familiar, that staying where you are is safer. But those are lies. These are not foundations. They are anchors, and no man ever rose while gripping anchors. So ask yourself, what is still holding you to the ground? What belief whispers that you're not ready? What voice tells you to stay put because it's familiar, because it's easy? That voice, it's not truth. It's the ghost of a former version of you. A version that, yes, once helped you survive, but now only keeps you small. You can honor that version. You can thank him, but you cannot keep following his lead. You're no longer that man. And every day you act like you are. Every day you keep living by his rules. You betray the future you're meant to live. You can't soar into your future if you remain chained to your past. You can't rise while still defending the very limitations that have held you down. It's time to cut those cords, to drop the dead weight, to finally release the outdated version of yourself that you've been dragging behind. Because elevation doesn't require perfection, it demands surrender. And the sky, it isn't waiting for someone flawless. It's waiting for someone free. So let go, rise, and this time, don't look back. Because there's something else quietly shaping your life every day. Your environment, the silent architect of your habits, your thoughts, your patterns. Take a hard look around you. What surrounds you shapes you. The walls you sit between, the screens you stare at, the books on your shelves, the people you let into your circle, the sounds, the silence, the clutter. They don't just fill space. They fill your subconscious. And here's the quiet truth. Those surroundings speak to you constantly, not in shouts, but in steady whispers. And those whispers, they become your beliefs, your moods, your habits, and eventually, your destiny. You might believe that every choice you make is entirely conscious, the result of willpower. But most behavior isn't chosen in the moment. It's triggered. It's cued by cues you've seen 1,000 times before. The truth is, you don't become like your goals. You become like your surroundings. Spend your days with builders, and you'll start building. Spend your hours among thinkers, and your thoughts sharpen. Walk beside doers, and suddenly, action feels natural. But stay in rooms filled with gossip, distraction, small talk, and shrinking energy, and slowly, silently, your own energy begins to leak away, not all at once, but drip by drip. This is why some men rise while others stay stuck. It's not always about drive, intelligence, or ambition. It's about exposure. It's about the air you breathe daily, the emotional, mental, and physical air. You might carry the highest intentions, but if your environment contradicts your mission, your environment will win every time. So, if you're struggling to take consistent action, don't start with your to-do list. Start with your surroundings. Look around the space where you live and work. Is it designed to support momentum or to feed distraction? Are your tools organized and within reach? Are the books that inspire you close enough to touch? Is your desk a zone of clarity or a magnet for chaos? Does your space call you forward or lull you back? And then ask yourself, what about your conversations? Are they pushing you toward purpose or pulling you back into passivity? Are you surrounding yourself with voices that ignite your vision? Or are your daily conversations consumed by complaints, mindless entertainment, and small talk that leaves you feeling more drained than inspired? It's a subtle but powerful distinction. The words you hear, the energy you absorb, these things either elevate you or erode you. If your environment is filled with noise that numbs your ambition, no wonder you feel stuck. To shift your environment, act deliberately. Take responsibility for the space you inhabit. Rearrange it so it reflects your internal standards, not your past habits. Clean it. Simplify it. Make it easier to do what's right and harder to slip into what's wrong. Set yourself up to win. Place reminders of your goals where you can't ignore them. Leave your journal open on your desk. Keep your running shoes by the door. Make your purpose unavoidable. Then, take inventory of your people. Are they pushing you forward or pulling you in circles? You don't owe everyone unlimited access to your time, especially not those who blur your clarity or dull your edge. You owe yourself alignment. Begin distancing yourself, gently but firmly, from those who keep you repeating patterns you've outgrown. Seek out those that make you think deeper, act better, stretch wider. People who hold you to your potential, not your past. And if you haven't found them yet, become the kind of person they're searching for. Raise your own standard. Led first by how you live. Make your mindset sharp enough to cut through excuses. Make your value so steady that builders and visionaries are drawn to your side. Think of your mind as fertile soil. Every conversation, every video, every message you expose yourself to, that's a seed. Some seeds blossom into vision and courage. Others grow into weeds, doubt, distraction, self-sabotage. If you don't take control of what's planted, the garden of your mind will grow wild with beliefs you never intended to cultivate. So ask yourself, what's been growing inside of you lately? Who planted it? What ideas or voices have you allowed to take root without even questioning them? And more importantly, what needs to be pulled out by the root today? What toxic patterns, what draining influences, what clutter have you tolerated for too long? What weeds have overstayed their welcome? What distractions steal your focus? What objects in your space are tied to an older version of yourself that no longer fits who you're becoming? And then, what can you plan instead? What new thought, habit, or ritual can you introduce to reshape your future? Will you plan it with purpose, with vision? Because you don't rise on willpower alone. You rise through structure, through design. And that design doesn't start in your imagination. It starts in the physical world around you. Build an environment that reflects the person you are becoming, not the one you were. Little by little, your behavior will begin to align with it. Maybe not all at once, but inevitably. Because when the space you occupy supports your values, your actions begin to support your vision. And slowly, your life transforms to match the future you once only dreamed of. So take a hard look again at what surrounds you and what must change. The man who keeps his promises to himself becomes unstoppable. It's easy to show up for others, to follow through when someone else is watching. But what happens when no one is? The world is full of men who keep their word to everyone but themselves. They speak of discipline and ambition, of rising early and chasing their goals. But when the morning air is cold and comfort calls, they retreat under the covers. They vow to finish the project, to build the habit, to stick to the plan. But when the moment of choice arrives, they stall. They hesitate. They convince themselves there's still time, that tomorrow will be different. And so, again and again, the promise is broken, not loudly, but quietly. And each time, a small but significant part of them erodes. Their self-trust. Not all at once, but piece by piece. But there is another kind of man, a quieter one who doesn't feel the need to announce his intentions to the world. He doesn't boast about what he plans to do. He doesn't need approval before taking action. When he speaks to himself, he listens. And more importantly, he obeys. That kind of man becomes powerful, not because he's aggressive or loud, but because his strength is self-contained. He doesn't chase validation. His confidence is constructed brick by brick through actions repeated in silence. Why does this matter so deeply? Because every single time you follow through on a promise to yourself, no matter how small, you reinforce a message. I am someone who follows through. And when that message is repeated consistently, it doesn't just remain a thought, it becomes identity. And identity drives behavior. Over time, that behavior begins to shape your destiny. This isn't about being flawless. It's about having integrity. When your inner voice gives an instruction, does your body respond? When you make even a minor commitment, do you treat it as sacred, or do you let it slide, assuming no one will notice? Because someone always notices. You notice. And that space between what you say and what you do, that's where either confidence or shame is built. Brick by brick, silently, inevitably. No man can rise above the opinion he holds of himself. So how do you begin to shift that inner opinion? You don't start with a bold declaration that you'll transform your entire life overnight. That's not discipline, it's disguised ego. Real change begins with something smaller. You reduce the promise until it fits your current strength. Then, you honor it without fail. It could be a 5-minute routine at sunrise. A quiet moment of presence before the noise of the world begins. A handwritten letter, a walk you promised yourself you'd take. One act of courage followed by action. One decision kept. Picture a craftsman rising before the village stirs. In the soft hush of morning, he sharpens his blade. Not for show, not for applause, but because he said he would. And each day he does, the edge gets keener. His word gets stronger. And so does he. Not because he expects a fight every morning, but because the very act of sharpening is the ritual. It's how he builds readiness. It's how he honors his craft. It's not about being seen, it's about being prepared. And then, one day, when the real challenge finally arrives, he faces it calmly, without panic. Not because he hoped everything would work out, but because he trained for it when no one was watching. And what about you? Where in your life have you made a promise that's now gathering dust? What commitment once felt sacred, but has slowly been abandoned? Is there a vow you once made to yourself that you've since ignored? What would shift if, today, you chose to pick it back up? No need for an audience. No applause required. Just you and your word. So make the promise again. Let it be small. Let it be focused. Let it be real. Then above all else, keep it. Because the man who learns to honor his word to himself doesn't have to chase greatness anymore. He becomes it. Through repetition. Through consistency. Through the quiet strength of doing what he said he would every single time, even in silence. The world will always try to scatter your focus, pulling you in 1,000 directions. But the man who's anchored by his own word, he remains steady. He doesn't drift with every new wave. He doesn't wait for permission to move. He trusts himself. And that trust, it becomes a quiet, powerful force that nothing outside can shake. So begin. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Not when you feel ready. Begin now. Choose one promise. Keep it. Let it become the first stone in a foundation that no storm can crack. Because here's the truth. Life will move you, whether you're ready or not. It won't wait for your ideal mood, your perfect schedule, or your full confidence. It brings pressure. It brings deadlines. It brings setbacks, noise, disappointments, and interruptions that never ask for your convenience. Most people spend their entire lives reacting to all of this. Dodging, flinching, bracing for the next blow, always in defense mode, always one step behind. But there's another way to move, a way rooted not in reaction but in vision. A life led not by pressure, but by purpose. Can you feel the difference? When a man is pulled by a compelling vision, he stops waiting for life to give him instructions. He doesn't need a map drawn by someone else. He's already chosen the destination. He moves with clarity, with conviction. And that kind of movement, it cannot be imitated. You can't fake the fire of purpose. A clear vision gives you immunity to 1,000 temptations. Fatigue may still whisper to you, but purpose will speak louder. Resistance may try to slow your steps, but it can't break your stride. Because when you're pulled by something greater than yourself, even your suffering finds meaning. Even your missteps become part of the process. And this truth, it matters more than most people will ever understand. Because the man without vision, he drifts. He stumbles into jobs, into habits, into relationships, then wonders why none of them seem to last. Why nothing truly fits. A man without vision gets discouraged easily by failure because he has no deeper anchor to steady him. Every inconvenience becomes a crisis. Every delay feels like defeat. There's nothing pulling him forward, no sense of direction when the wind changes. But the man who carries a clear vision within, he may stumble, he may fall, but every fall becomes part of his forward motion. He gets up, he continues. His compass doesn't waver. It's not luck that keeps him going, it's intention. So how do you find that kind of pull? How do you locate that deeper current beneath the noise? You sit with yourself, not once, not quickly, not as a task to check off, but often. You carve out space from the chaos. You lower the volume of the world so you can hear your own inner voice, the one that's been drowned out for far too long. You ask yourself the deeper questions, the ones that don't come with easy answers. What do I genuinely want to create in this life? Who am I really trying to become? And if no one could stop me, what would I pursue without hesitation? These aren't questions to be answered in a rush. They don't yield to pressure. They reveal themselves slowly, in stillness, in quiet reflection, in rare moments of honesty. And once those answers begin to form, even just a glimpse, you have to protect that vision like something sacred. You have to nurture it. You must return to it daily. Picture two horses. One is chased by fear. It runs fast, but it runs without direction. Always looking back, always checking for danger, always unsure of when or where to stop. The other horse is pulled by purpose, pulled by vision. It runs with focus. It runs with calm strength. It runs with intent. Which one reaches the finish line? Now ask yourself, in your own life, where have you been running from fear? Fear of failing, fear of being invisible, fear of not measuring up. And what has that fear cost you? How much clarity, peace, and steady progress has it stolen? But what if you shifted that energy? What if you let a vision guide you instead of fear? Not because someone told you to, not out of obligation, but because something within you has already decided it's time. You feel it, don't you? That shift when you go from running away to running towards something, that changes everything. Because when you're led by vision, fear begins to lose its grip. When you know where you're going, setbacks stop being walls. They become curves in the path, nothing more. You don't have to live at the mercy of pressure. You don't have to let the noise dictate your moves. You don't need to be shoved through life by urgency and external demands. You can choose a different way. You can be pulled forward by meaning. You can be drawn by a purpose so clear and compelling that it becomes magnetic. But here's the key. You have to choose it. Vision doesn't arrive by accident. It's not found in chaos. It's claimed by those who dare to seek it. Vision doesn't just appear. It must be invited. It needs to be clarified. And most of all, it must be committed to. So choose. Right now, you can keep reacting to life, bouncing from one demand to the next. Or you can make a different choice to be pulled by something greater, to be led by destiny rather than driven by noise. Take a breath. Stand still. Let the world quiet down just for a moment. And in that space, ask the real question, not what others expect, but what you are meant to do. When that answer comes, however soft or uncertain it may be, follow it. Because a man led by vision doesn't walk like everyone else. He moves with intention. He moves with power. He doesn't wait for a green light or a cheer from the crowd. He doesn't shrink when the wind picks up or the storm rolls in. He doesn't need a push because he's already pulled from within. And that internal pull, that changes everything. Because repetition builds identity. Every small action you take is a silent vote for the kind of man you're becoming. Every time you repeat a habit, good or bad, you reinforce a version of yourself. You might think it's just one late night, or it's just one skipped workout, or it's just one broken promise to myself. But it's never just once. These seemingly small choices connect like threads, slowly weaving a pattern. And over time, that pattern becomes your identity. Not chosen, but accumulated, shaped by your own repetition. But here's the good news. This isn't a curse. It's a key. Because if repeated compromises can quietly build a weaker version of you, then repeated discipline can just as powerfully forge your strongest self. You have the ability to cast a different kind of vote today. And it doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't take force or pressure. It takes faithful repetition, doing the right thing, even the small right thing, again and again. Especially when no one is watching. Especially when it feels like it doesn't matter. Because it does. Why is this so powerful? Because identity shapes belief, and belief, in turn, shapes your destiny. When you start to see yourself as someone reliable, courageous, consistent, you start to live that way. It's no longer an effort to stay disciplined or keep your promises. It becomes natural. It becomes who you are. These acts stop feeling like chores. They turn into expressions of your character. And how do you begin that transformation? You don't need to change everything overnight. You begin small, but you begin honestly with something real, something you can keep. Choose just one action, one small behavior that aligns with the man you want to become. Not 10, not everything, just one. And then do it daily, not flawlessly, not under pressure, but with quiet, steady persistence. Because the true power isn't in how impressive the act is. It's in your unwavering return to it, day after day. Picture a man standing before a block of stone. With chisel in hand, he strikes. The first hit leaves nothing. No crack, no change. The 10th, maybe a faint scratch. But still, he returns each morning. He doesn't rush. He doesn't quit. He simply trusts the process and strikes again. And then, over time, the form begins to emerge. The figure he envisioned was always hidden within the stone. It just needed repetition to be revealed. That's your character. It doesn't appear in sudden flashes or loud declarations. It's formed quietly in a daily follow-through. It's built when you do what you said you would do. When you stand tall, even when no one would blame you for slouching. When you write the letter you've been avoiding, finish the task you started, show up even when you'd rather not. So ask yourself, right now, what are you carving into your character? Are your habits shaping the kind of man you admire? Or are they quietly reinforcing the man you're trying to outgrow? Are your daily votes cast for discipline, for excellence, for integrity? Or are you, without meaning to, strengthening patterns of hesitation, disorder, and passivity? Here's the truth. Your future is still soft, still moldable, like wet clay in your hands. And every single action you take today is a tool. You're not stuck. You're not too late. No matter how far off track you feel, you're never more than one good decision away from the return. Not a complete transformation in a day, just the start of a return to yourself. So carve one line, cast one vote, choose one act of discipline, one moment of courage, one small follow-through. Then do it again tomorrow. Because you don't become who you are through wishful thinking. You become it through repetition. Repeat what matters. Not just when it's convenient or when someone's watching, but when it's quiet, when it's hard, especially when no one will see. Because the man you're becoming, he's watching, and he's being built. One strike at a time. The more you face resistance, the stronger you become. Just like muscle is built under pressure, torn, stressed, and rebuilt, so too is your character. In the gym, the weight you lift breaks the muscle fibers just enough to trigger growth. And in life, the weight you carry, every delay, setback, and demand, pulls at your identity, not to destroy it, but to reveal the strength hiding beneath. But if you avoid every hard thing, if you dodge every discomfort, you don't just remain soft in body. You grow soft in spirit, in thought, and in your ability to endure. You become less capable, not because you're weak by nature, but because you never chose to grow strong. Every single time you face resistance and choose to keep moving, you're doing something much greater than finishing a task. You're transforming. You're telling your soul, we were not made for ease. We were made for impact. That shift in mindset, it's no small thing. It's the foundation of real strength. True men are not forged in comfort. They're shaped through endurance. They don't become powerful through luck, but through the sweat and labor of showing up when it's hard. And yet, many miss this. They see resistance as a warning, a sign they've made a mistake. They assume struggle means they're on the wrong path. But here's the truth most never realize. Resistance doesn't show up in places where nothing is growing. It appears right where you're about to break through, where your potential is pressing outward, demanding to expand. That pressure you feel, it's not your enemy. It's your signal that something powerful is unfolding. And this matters deeply, because life won't suddenly become easier. The path won't smooth out just because you wish it would. The terrain doesn't change, but you can. And that change, the internal strength you earn, is not handed to you. It's built one day at a time. It's earned when you rise before you're ready, when you finish what you said you would, when you speak truth even when silence feels safer. So how do you build that strength? You stop cursing the challenge. You stop wishing for the path to soften. You welcome the resistance. You embrace the discomfort like a wise old teacher who appears not to punish you, but to prepare you. This is the forge, the exact edge where transformation begins. The edge where your old self quivers and your new self takes form. And if you're looking for where growth lives, it lives there, right on that edge. That is how character is carved, slowly, deliberately, and under pressure. Picture a blacksmith standing before his forge. He takes raw, rigid steel and places it into the fire. The heat rises. The metal softens. And then comes the hammer. Strike after strike, ringing through the air, crashing down with force and purpose. It burns. It bends. It aches. But it doesn't break. Instead, it takes form. It begins to transform from something ordinary into something extraordinary. What begins as a shapeless piece of metal becomes a blade, sharp, strong, and precise. That's exactly what your obstacles are doing to you. They are not punishments. They are the furnace and the hammer. They are not here to destroy you. They are here to reveal you, to forge your edge, to bring out your strength. Now, take a hard look at your own life. Where have you been dodging the fire? Where are you choosing the easier path and calling it wisdom? Where are you mistaking comfort for true peace? What if the thing you keep avoiding, the difficult conversation, the disciplined schedule, the unknown path, the bold step forward, is the very weight you were meant to lift? The very pressure that would strengthen your soul? Strength does not come from thinking about doing the work. It comes from showing up and doing it consistently. Not just when you're motivated, not only when it's convenient, but especially when it isn't. Real growth begins when you decide, deep down, to become someone who can't be shaken. And here's something many never understand. That kind of strength can't be borrowed from others. It can't be handed down or gifted. It has to be forged one day at a time. So stop running from the weight. Pick it up. Feel it. Let it stretch you. Let it tire you out. Let it shape you. Let it challenge the parts of you that still hesitate. And eventually, you'll rise, not in spite of the resistance, but because of it. And when you do, you won't be the same. You'll be stronger, sharper, more certain. The world around you may look the same, but you'll have changed. And that changes everything. Because clarity doesn't come from endless thinking. It doesn't come from waiting for the perfect moment or analyzing every possible scenario. You could spend weeks, months, or even years mapping out every detail, thinking it's preparation. You call it strategy. You tell yourself you're just being smart. But here's the truth no one tells you. Clarity is earned through action. It's revealed in motion. It's found in doing. You gain it through trial and error, through getting your hands dirty, through building and adjusting along the way. Of course, planning matters. No builder lays stone without a blueprint. But too much planning without movement becomes the very thing that holds you back. It becomes a trap disguised as caution. A man can get lost in the maze of his own mind. He can confuse endless thinking and planning with real progress. And the longer he remains in that mental loop, the thicker the fog becomes. Doubts begin to multiply like shadows at dusk. The goal that once felt close now seems distant, even unreachable. But something powerful happens the moment he takes a step, even if the move is hesitant, even if it's not the perfect direction. The fog begins to lift. The path begins to reveal itself, one step at a time. Not all at once, not in perfect clarity, but just enough to illuminate the next move. Why does this matter so much? Because we often convince ourselves we need more preparation, more time, more research, more confidence, more certainty. But the truth is, certainty doesn't come before action. It follows it. It is the act of doing that uncovers direction. The decision to move forward, especially when you feel unsure, is what sparks the clarity you've been waiting for. This is the moment where many remain stuck, trapped by the illusion that if they just think a little longer, they'll feel ready. But readiness is a myth. No man has ever truly felt prepared when standing at the edge of something great. He simply chose to start. And from that beginning, readiness arrived. So what do you do when everything still feels blurry? When the journey ahead feels too vast? You simplify. You strip away the noise. You stop trying to fix everything at once and instead choose one small move, one manageable action that aligns with progress. And most importantly, you take that step today, not later, not next Monday, today, because action is the antidote to overwhelm. One small step breaks inertia, and from that movement comes the next insight. You don't need to see the entire staircase to climb it. You just need to find and take the next step. That's the real secret. Movement generates momentum. Momentum brings clarity. Clarity gives rise to courage. And courage is what begins to carve a clear path through the unknown. Picture this. You're standing at the edge of a vast, unfamiliar forest. In your hand, you hold a map. You analyze it, you flip it around, you check your compass. You try to calculate the distance and assess the risk. But here's the truth. The map is only a guess. It's just a rough idea, because the forest is alive. It moves, it shifts, it conceals its true nature until you're deep inside. You could spend your entire day studying from the edge, but you won't learn what's truly inside until you step in. Or you can take that first step. Maybe it's small, maybe it's slow, but it's forward. You enter the unknown not with arrogance, but with humility. You begin learning the terrain by walking it, not by watching from the sidelines. That's how life really works. That's how purpose reveals itself. Not to the one who waits for perfect clarity, but to the one who's brave enough to move without it. So, ask yourself honestly, where in your life are you still waiting for a flawless plan? Where have you confused hesitation with preparation? And what might unfold if you simply began today? Imperfect, unsure, but committed. Maybe it's that letter you've been meaning to write, the conversation you've been avoiding, that book you've been talking about for years, the business idea you keep pushing to someday, the habit you dream of forming. Whatever it is, the fog around it won't clear on its own. It lifts only when you move through it. You don't need perfection. You need momentum. And here's the truth. Once you begin, you will adapt. You'll sharpen your focus. You'll gain strength, not all at once, but step by step. That's the reality of every meaningful journey. It doesn't start with a grand vision. It starts with a quiet decision, a commitment to begin. So start, even if you're afraid, even if you feel lost. Start small, but start. Give the world something to meet in motion. Let your own effort surprise you. Let clarity rise from your courage. Because the path does not appear for the one who stands still. It reveals itself to the one who walks. So walk, move forward. Let the ground take shape beneath your steps. Because the man who acts consistently, who shows up every single day, will always outpace the one who waits for motivation to strike. Some men only work when the moment feels right, when inspiration strikes, when the weather is good, when their energy is high and their emotions are in alignment. They wait for a breeze of motivation to fill their sails. And when that wind comes, yes, they move fast. They shine bright. But just as quickly as they soar, they stall. Because inspiration is a guest. It comes and goes as it pleases. You can't rely on it to carry you. But others show up regardless. They work through the stillness, through the rain, through the fog, through the days when the sun doesn't shine. When their mood dips and energy runs low, they still rise. They still move. They still do the work. Not perfectly, not loudly, but relentlessly, consistently. And in the long run, it's the man who shows up every day who ultimately wins. Not because of luck, not because of raw genius, but because he stacks effort upon effort day after day until his results compound and greatness becomes less a question of if and more a matter of when. This isn't just a motivational idea. It's a law of life, a principle so many overlook. The man who waits for inspiration lives in frustrating cycles. Short bursts of enthusiasm, followed by long stretches of inaction. He burns bright for a moment, but then the flame flickers out, leaving him stuck until the next emotional high. He becomes a man of moments, not momentum. But the man who shows up daily, even when motivation is nowhere to be found, builds something far more powerful. He creates a reservoir of discipline, a rhythm that carries him even when the internal spark runs low. Why does this matter so deeply? Because every lasting achievement, every strong body, every powerful book, every thriving business, every enduring legacy has one thing in common: repetition. Not inspiration, not mood. A farm doesn't yield crops because the farmer is feeling passionate. It yields because the seeds were planted, watered, weeded, and tended day after day, regardless of emotion. The harvest doesn't come from inspiration. It comes from consistency. And yet, we often romanticize passion. We glorify those flashes of brilliance, those strike while the iron is hot moments. But greatness? It doesn't rise from a single hot strike. It's born in the hands of men who keep swinging the hammer long after the fire fades. Men who push the plow when the soil is dry and stubborn. Men who write the sentence even when the words won't come. Men who show up and practice their craft when every muscle aches. So, how do you become a man like that? You build rhythm into your life. You establish rituals that are stronger than your excuses. You build habits that can outlast your moods. You begin to treat your time like sacred ground, not to be wasted. And you guard your focus fiercely because your future depends on it. You don't wait to feel like it. You decide. You set a time. You show up. You begin. And slowly, you evolve into someone who no longer needs emotional permission to act. Someone who no longer asks, "Do I feel like it today?" but instead declares, "This is who I am." Picture two runners. One stares out the window each morning, checking the forecast, watching the clouds. If the sun is warm and the breeze is gentle, he laces up and runs. And when he does, he runs well. But most days he waits. The other runner? He laces up regardless. Rain or shine, heat or cold. Some runs are effortless. Others are grueling. But still he runs, day after day. And after a year has passed, who do you think is truly ready for the race? The answer is obvious. But the truth is, most never apply it. Because showing up every day, it isn't glamorous. It's not flashy. It doesn't get applause. But it's the difference between those who try and those who transform. It's not glamorous. It's rarely celebrated. It doesn't offer instant rewards or dramatic applause. But showing up daily builds something far greater than fleeting results. It shapes your identity. It forges your inner strength. And over time, it creates a sense of inevitability. You no longer wonder if you'll achieve your goal. You know it's just a matter of time. So ask yourself, where in your life have you been waiting too long? Waiting for the perfect moment, the right conditions, the wave of inspiration that never seems to arrive? What ideas, goals, or dreams have been collecting dust while you told yourself, maybe tomorrow? How many times have you paused? Not because you lacked ability, but because you didn't feel ready. Now, imagine a different way. A new approach where you show up daily, regardless of how you feel. A mindset where your goal becomes a field you tend to every single day. Some days, the progress is visible. Other days, it feels like nothing is happening. But beneath the surface, something always is. The roots are taking hold. The soil is shifting. The foundation is forming. You don't need more passion. What you need is rhythm. Rhythm is what carries you through when motivation is missing. Rhythm builds the base that brilliance can stand on. It's not just what turns action into achievement. It's what transforms effort into excellence. Without rhythm, your fire burns out. With it, you become unstoppable. So choose your times. Protect your routines. Respect your craft. And stop asking your feelings for permission to move. You were not designed to sit and wait for bursts of inspiration. You were made to create, to build, to endure, to rise again and again. And when you move forward each day, even in small ways, the world around you begins to respond. Your strength multiplies. Your path becomes clearer. And what once felt impossible now feels inevitable. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Create it. Build it with your hands, your habits, your decisions. Force yourself into motion one step at a time, one choice at a time, one small act of discipline repeated. So start today, not with pressure, but with commitment, not with grand promises, but with faithful follow-through. Your future won't be built by intentions. It will be built by action. Thank you for walking this journey with me. Wishing you strength, health, and happiness. And don't forget to subscribe to Mindset Daily, where transformation begs.